Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 2nd of August, and well, we had our DOC spread that started. Well, we first actually began to see weakness here as the red DOC started to fade up here at the peak levels, and then it didn't take much before we had the cyan move above green, and that triggered the full-on sell. Now, what was beautiful is after the decay, we hit the 50, ABM green right here, and spiked back up above the ABM yellow, but right at the peak of the market intraday, we were able to see the turnaround. Of course, this was also the announcement of the tariffs to China, and conveniently everything just went right back down, broke through that support within the sell signal that was already there. We had the brief steel pop, which was enough to give a little bit of support to buyers early on, but that fade just wiped everybody out. And this is what I talked about before, that it wouldn't take but a day or so to wipe out, well, all of July, which was right back up here. We talked about it before, the low right there. And now that you've taken out the 55 level, you've cleared out anyone who's in those stop ranges. We still have a couple of positive extremes daily wise going all the way back to well, the 16 level. So I know it seemed crazy when you're already at 3,000 plus that you would go back down to that level, but we'll have to see if it levels out before then, what you may get is a pop back up before we end up doing it. So how we actually end up getting there sometimes is a little bit more circuitous than just a simple fade all the way. It can happen, but we'll just follow it as it goes, but well within our expectations. So there was no surprise with any of this at this particular point. Happy with what we're looking there. Despite the Euro dip buyback, we knew that they would try and pull this back up, and that usually happens off of a decline like this, but no reset of steel, meaning that any pop is still likely not to have that much support. As we can see, the EU, Britain still having issues with their Brit exit, how it's going to go, blah, 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 yada, yada, but the US really needs to drive the euro back up, and that's going to be the strongest impetus towards getting it to go back. Of course, oil, there's no chance for it to really maintain any significant pop, and likewise we saw the same situation after it had the improvement. There was no new buy signal at the time of this crossover, which meant that it wasn't going to survive, and we knew that, and sure enough it hasn't. So again, this is where not seeing that steel reset, and if you don't have the steel reset, you have to have that green midterm buyers move over red and stay there in order for it to maintain itself. And of course, safety reset off of the ABM green, and everyone's looking for a place to store value, and this is going to, like I said before, impact cryptocurrencies. And people say, oh, how did you know before? And it's like, some of these things are not all that complicated to garner. So from a 5K chart, we had the beautiful positive extremes leading up to the move going all the way through here, and then we peaked out with the first DOC spread, and that was all the way up at the 312 from a, let's look at the close bar on that. I actually got pretty decent. It was funny because we were on the Skype chat, and we were talking about this very short coming in from the extremes that were going in through here. I forgot what level I got in at here. It's 310. So right at it. Just took advantage of it, and that's where we are right now. So that's just a simple way to follow what the prescription was, and you can see this. We did get a brief reset right down here. That moved us back up to the 100%. What we're looking at on this one is the GAM function paint bar, but it just coincides with overall readings and that break below the, first we had the ABM gold that broke from a daily standpoint, and then you have intraday from the 50K was quite interesting because we had talked about this where the falling magenta not a situation where you want to buy, which would effectively eliminate a lot of these setups. But this was a decent buy, and you can see it produced significant gains. The difficulty is that with the automation program, it's not going to react as fast as we would normally from this. But within the confines of a no steal reset, I'm working on the language that will look for shorter term runs on those and prepare a tighter stop to allow these to be gains, if not worst case break-evens, especially when you have that significant a climb, because from its entry at 29.81, we shot up almost 30 points from it. So working that to where it will capture some type of gain is crucial. And of course, nothing on a buy scenario. That was sudden and loud. Pre-market activity. And we're just starting to produce P2 setups right here as the DOC red starts to improve. If it gets above the negative 13.5, it could have some more legs. We would need to see the yellow crossover and a spacing of about 2.25 points with the histogram still below the negative 13 to suggest that we're going to get much more of a strong run. At that point, I would be certainly adjusting my stop on that short much tighter. But for now, not the case. And if we enlarge this, we can see where we're at currently, just like so, as it begins to attempt to make a build, but again, without that steal reset, even on a 5K, it's suggesting a little more weakness to come until that's finalized. But all in all, really good action, and we're spot on. What a way to start the month. That was beautiful. Fake people out to the downside. All the shorts that jumped in had to cover on the big bounce, but that's all there was short covering, allowed more longs to get out, and then the plummet took place. And so once again, they snag a little bit from both sides for those who don't know what's taking place, and everybody gets whacked except for those of us who know where it's at. So stick with your readings and continue to follow that, and we'll continue to prosper. But this is a huge start to the month for us on this volatility spike. As always, though, trade well, and we will talk again later.